This is the disassembly and reassembly of the 3MR trigger from TacCon. Let's open this up. Inside you should have a copy of the ATF letter. That's the trigger. Here's the selector and the two trigger pins. Now we're going to have to pull the trigger on this to disassemble. So what we do is we take our index finger and our thumb and hold outside of the housing and use our middle finger to pull the trigger. Support the hammer before you pull the trigger and just let it go forward. Now, we're going to use this pen. It's just a pen, and we're going to push the sleeve from the right side of the housing to the left side. And then when we pull that sleeve all the way out, it releases the hammer and the hammer spring. We'll set those aside. And now we're going to remove the trigger assembly. What we do is put a little bit of pressure down on the secondary and push the sleeve from the right side to the left side. Now if we put more pressure down on the secondary, we can remove the entire sleeve. This will disassemble the entire trigger. This is the housing, this is the trigger spring, and this is the trigger assembly. Now I'm going to take the secondary out of the trigger assembly for reassembly. Now to reassemble this, all we're doing is taking the trigger assembly, placing it inside the trigger spring, and then we're going to take this and place it inside the housing. Make sure the legs of the spring are not protruding out of the hole at the bottom of the trigger, and press down until the spring aligns with the hole. We're going to pick up the sleeve. Flat side goes in first, not the D-ring slide, but the flat side goes in the left side of the housing and grabs the trigger spring. Now, we need to align the hole on the trigger assembly so that it fits through that slot. Now, I've gone too far, so I'm going to bring it back a little bit so it's flush. Now, we want to take the secondary with the hook forward and put it in the slot of the trigger assembly. Then we can lift up the positive reset lever and place the secondary underneath there. The positive reset lever will hold the secondary in place while we're installing this sleeve. Now we want to turn this over, sleeve down, and then you can see through the hole that the surfaces are not aligned. We're going to put pressure down on the positive reset lever and the secondary until all the surfaces align, and then put pressure downward toward the table until that slips through. Now, it's not all the way through, you can see that, so what we'll do is just put pressure down on the secondary until that is flush. Now we've got the trigger assembly installed in the housing. What we're going to do now is the trigger spring, make sure the humps are facing upward like this, and we're going to install that inside the housing like this. Okay, the hammer will fit inside the spring like that, but do not align the hole yet. It's very difficult to do it right now. Take the sleeve, flat side, not the D-ring side, but the flat side, and place it through the hole on the left side of the housing so it captures the hammer spring. Once you've done that, you want to take and put pressure on the top of the hammer so it pushes down on the trigger, and then it will let the sleeve slide all the way through. Now, by manipulating this hammer, we can get it to go flush with the other side of the housing. Now your trigger is assembled. To install this in a lower, you just bring it all the way back until it's on the front sear. And that is how you disassemble and reassemble the 3MR trigger from TacCon.